but I don't think we're going to run into that. Let's see what the legend comps are going to be. Game 1, we're expecting the Caustic for sure on one side. Brian going to be playing the Bangalore. Kyle bringing out the Fuse. Game 1. Then we've got the Caustic and Sparrow. I like the Fuse pick here. I feel like Fuse is a really good potential counter for both Caustic and Bangalore. Obviously, Caustic setting up those barrels inside of buildings, it's going to be a little more difficult to potentially get in there with that happening. But you can pop some Fuse Qs in to try and get some damage when the team is kind of hiding inside of the building itself, and also at the same time set those traps off a little earlier than maybe you would if you just ran into them. But here we go into game number 1. Richie and Kyle both using RE45 classes. Richie going to be using the Spitfire while Kyle is using a Nemesis. 2 separate RE45 classes. Interesting. Meanwhile, David running that Spitfire class as well. So is Brian. So only 1 Nemesis in the lobby so far, and the damage coming out immediately. David getting in there early, but both him and Brian get cracked. Cracks on both sides, and that Fuse is already paying dividends.
Already going in with the knuckle clusters and forcing them back, and what they're trying to do here is use that Caustic to kind of gain this space, but the Fuse is going to make it really difficult, and I think Kyle knew that going in. Yeah,
he definitely did. Omit to nothing, trying to swing around the outside of this building. Interestingly enough, it seems like the Balls being the team that's kind of playing a little more safe here. When it comes to the interior of these buildings, you'd think that might be the case for the Caustic team, but Omit being a lot more aggressive right now. Kyle gonna get swung, but that Fuse Q once again. Huge damage from Kyle. They need to capitalize on this. Richie's got to get in the fight.
Just a little bit slow from Richie right there, and that's one of those rookie mistakes. If he comes in and swings with Kyle there, they get at least 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Richie was trying to cover their back, so I don't totally blame him, but that's a moment where if he slides on the interior of that door, he could have potentially got 2 kills as Kyle went big with the Fuse. Donnie, you've played Fuse in the past, last season. How do you feel about the Fuse pick? Because I'm not going to lie, right here early and often, this Fuse is going massive for the Balls.
I think it's just a really good counter to the Caustic, but as soon as we say that, the Caustic absolutely fries the Fuse. But I think overall it could be a really good counter if they play it right.
Richie left on his own. They do a good job hunting him out, and that is a 2-0 early swing for Omit to nothing. The aggressiveness coming out. Ultimately, like Donnie said, the Fuse is a solid pick, but David getting the best of the first engagement.
I think Kyle overcorrected on that push right there. He saw Richie kind of taking some damage from Brian, and he kind of swung out into the middle, and then David, it just made it easy for him to kind of clean that thing up.
Yeah, Kyle with a well-placed thermite grenade onto Brian. Gets some good damage. Also ticks onto David, so he's gonna know where he is. Huge damage from Kyle onto Brian.
Richie get in here.
Oh, but Richie, he gets stuck in some of the traps. He's gonna smartly back off, but he goes down when he retreats to Kyle, and now Kyle has to burn his Fuse ult just to try to stay alive.
Great job by Kyle right there.
Yeah, really good job to stay alive. I mean, that's the impact of Caustic right there. Richie tries to move forward to capitalize off of some of that damage that Kyle's creating, but those barrels got him spooked. I do feel like, when we're talking about inexperience, that's definitely one of those things. That barrel didn't seem like the most threatening of presences, but the moment you take a little bit of damage or a little bit more inexperience, like we talked about, you're probably just going to try to back off. But another early fight coming in as Brian gets shredded by Richie. Kyle goes down as David versus Richie in a 1v1, and David's able to clutch it up, and he's letting that Spitfire mag completely go. Holy.
Bro, he's just that guy, honestly. Like, it's actually insane how good he make, like, let alone the Caustic being busted, but just how good he is on the sticks. It's just, I mean, it almost feels like it's just too easy.
I will say I was really proud of Richie right there for swinging at the right time, getting the finish up on Brian. He's the only kill right now, and that's what you want to see if you're Kyle. Obviously, the scoreboard isn't looking great for you, but you just want to see those little incremental moves towards getting better throughout the season, and I think that was a good swing from Richie.
It absolutely was, and Kyle with big damage onto Brian, able to get the kill. David going to smartly back off. This is how you mount the comeback
here, one at a time. And Brian's going to give you those opportunities. He's going to give you the opportunity to go one at a time.
Do you think that's a specific strat that Kyle and Richie are going to try to employ? Find that Bangalore and take him out early?
1,000%. I will.
David gonna swing, but that fuse Q once again, residual damage as he tries to go through the doorway. Brian with big damage. Once again onto Kyle, who's one shot. Richie gonna have to try and hold for him. He takes damage from both players, gets cracked, is able to get out temporarily, but David with the kill. Kyle trying to get the trade here.
Oh no.
Not able to do it so far. And he gets the trade. He gets the trade. It doesn't really matter in the end because it was ultimately a 2-for-1, but he was going to die there, so getting that trade at least keeps it somewhat close. That could have been real bad if he ended up dying. David has spawned in such an interesting spot, and he gets huge damage onto Kyle, not to cut you off.
No, it's fine. I was just going to say, I liked Richie's movement on that play to get out of there. It just
we saw the switch off the Caustic, by the way, onto the Horizon, and it pays absolute dividends. Holy hell.
Interesting swap.
I feel like Horizon is a really unique character this season for DMR because, like, the ultimate height is not allowed, but there is still some height. And I feel like ultimate height, as Brian wins a 1v1 against Richie, I feel like ultimate height is not great for Horizon because the Q, like, it got nerfed a long time ago, right? You go up a lot slower, but these little small buildings, or like we just saw from David right there, to just do a little quick jump over a rock, Horizon can be a really good character for that team's arsenal.
Kyle taking a lot of damage there. Yeah, Richie's just kind of learning these characters, right? Like, he hears the seer and he just doesn't know what exactly that means. And I think it confused him a little bit. Brian able to capitalize.
David and Brian in a really bad spot right now, kind of out in the open, no cover on this low ground. Unfortunately, the ball's not able to capitalize on it from their little elevated spot behind that rock. David, though, gets an angle onto Richie and is able to shred him. Kyle now left alone, does pop the fuse ult on himself to try and prevent a push, but Brian already getting an angle, swinging on the left side. Luckily for Kyle, Richie has spawned and they have grouped up, but the aggression coming out from David still. Kyle goes down, Richie goes down as well. It is 12-3. Omit to Nothing doing a great job taking opposite angles on both sides of the balls, and the balls get a little confused there. And we get a little quick scoreboard check real quick. Go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just going to say, that was another example of, like, Richie learning on the fly. He's using the Spitfire, and he gets Brian down to the final shot, but he stays ADS.
Speaking of ADS, David not ADSing whatsoever as he goes up that Q. Absolutely decimates Kyle in that fight, and that's another 2-0 swing, Omit to Nothing's way. Honestly, I feel like the pace of play is just clearly different here. Omit to Nothing are just really taking the fight to the balls every single time. The balls just seem slow to react.
And it's such a weird thing, too, because they started off playing exactly how they needed to play. They were slowing the game down, mucking it up, and now they're kind of trying to play this, we're going to run straight at him type game, and I just don't think at this point in the season, that's how they should be playing right now. I would probably swap off the fuse maybe and see if you can utilize some of the other legends, because Kyle has a great arsenal of legends on his roster.
I was just going to say, I think David switching the counter, honestly, and going up with something against the Caustic actually was probably a really good move, and you could tell that, like Jay said, the pace of play just really is not in favor of the balls right now.
We see both teams once again kind of at this little elevated rock position just outside of Skulltown. I feel like this is very intentional from the balls, just trying to force Omit to Nothing to cross out in the open space. The problem is that Omit to Nothing does seem to be a little bit better at these poke battles, meaning that if they can get an opening without taking any damage themselves, they can do a good push off of this. I do want to point out that David does have his Horizon ultimate, which can make things very dicey. Kyle blows his load early. He does have David pinned, but Brian is able to pick up the kill onto Richie, who tries to advance off of it. Kyle with big damage onto David, but he has to reload, and David's probably going to be able to escape.
I don't know what Brian's doing here.
That was a classic.
That
run.
was.
I don't know what happened right there.
I mean, I literally just talked about how they were trying to get him to cross the open space, and Brian crosses said space.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because David, which Brian eliminates Richie. We'll see if he can hunt out Kyle right now. David alongside of him. Kyle trying to run away. Richie does spawn on him. It was funny though, because David took the queue up and it looked like he might try to get the push, but when he got cracked, he backed off. Brian also gets cracked midair and does the exact opposite and just kept going forward.
One of these things is not like
You
the
know,
other.
it's just, you know, we've been blessed in this league with some characters.
The Horizon ult does come in. David gonna swing. Kyle takes major damage. Richie has to try to hold him off. And he gets a kill onto David. Brian last alive. This is, I think, one of the tough parts for this roster for Balls right now is it feels like they don't feel confident being the aggressors whatsoever. So, like, even in that moment right there where they get a kill and Brian's alone, they don't go hunt him out, and yet Brian delivers himself to them on a silver platter. Okay. And it actually somehow works.
And
I don't
we
know.
got the emo coming out.
We got the
got
emote
emotes.
from David. I don't know if Richie just didn't heal right there, because I saw Kyle pop the bat, but then Brian was able to get the crack. But Richie was super low health as well.
That might be the closest thing to I've got a giant cock emote that we'll see in DMR, I've got to be honest.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, after seeing that, makes Horizon just such a better pick. That alone, being able to taunt the opponents, get in the head, that's something I want to
And that's
see.
game.
And that is game 20-6. We get a scoreboard check. David with 12 kills, 3,000 damage. Shout out to Brian. I mean, keeping up. 8 kills himself, 2,200 damage. Brian actually had a pretty solid game there. Kyle on the other side, only 3 kills at 2,600, and then Richie with 3 kills as well. Now, Donnie, talk to me here. Kyle is busting out Octane. I don't know
it's
what
a
that's
choice.
about. Yeah, that one's interesting to me. I figured Monument, a little more of a dense urban layout. It feels pretty clear that the Maggie would be the option here, especially since, you know, all due respect to Richie, but I feel like Kyle is very clearly the best player on that team, and going into every fight at a potential disadvantage, but just by using your stim, sure, you're faster, but also you've got less health. That's a choice right there.
Yeah, and just real quick, we did see the switch over to the altar by David, so that does appear to be the plan, just like last week.
Yeah. But the guns,
Sniped out.
yeah, we've got the Sentinel on David with the R301. Interesting class there. Not going to be the greatest at close range, but the 301 can absolutely get it done. It's consistent. Then we've got the 30-30 and alternator for Brian. On the other side, Richie running Volt Mastiff, the Wyatt Special, no range. Meanwhile, Kyle running the Devo Mozambiques. Everybody's using different classes. This might be the first time I've ever seen this in DMR history.
That is interesting. But you're going to get those darts out there.
I'm not going to lie. I don't know if I love this Devo Mozam class from Kyle's perspective. Now, the Octane pick is interesting for it because obviously when you stim, you know, he could be zooming around with that LMG and kind of negate some of the strafe speed penalty that you're going to have using an LMG. And there is, I guess, like the potential that he can kill both players in a single mag with that gun. But I feel like if, you know, he ever has to sit there and reload, it's going to take so long. And we've seen Kyle in the past is not the greatest with the Mozams, so this could punish him. And that said, Kyle goes crazy, gets the early kill on O'Brien. They've got to capitalize on this. He swings out, good damage. Richie a little bit slower. David trying to run away. Oh, no, and he has completely lost Richie with those Qs.
Good thing is Richie doesn't die there, which is
Yeah.
big. You know, obviously you want to see him get that kill, but as long as he doesn't go down and he keeps it close, that's all that matters.
The fight breaking out once again. Crack comes out from Brian with that smoke. David gonna try to swing off of it. Gonna use that tack to try and get a scan. Spots out. Richie is able to get the kill. Kyle most likely gone, as he did use a jump pad to escape. But Omid to nothing, taking that jump pad to try and find him. They spot the open door. Brian with a good call out. And with the altar, they can absolutely get up to the height of that building to try and chow Kyle. Are the P20s banned? I guess, yeah, because they're care package, like red gun, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. That said, David is able to find a gold bow check. Can be devastating in the right hands. Kyle and Richie once again just kind of backing up and playing slow. Richie does have his ultimate. He's going to swing this bottom left corner. This ultimate can be devastating. Doesn't get into the greatest spot, as there is that little thing that juts out in the middle of the room that's going to be able to block all the damage. Big damage onto Richie himself. Kyle spraying through the smoke. Can't see a thing. And both teams just going to part ways. That could have been really good for Richie if he was able to put it on the other side of that wall. That was a great ult. Now, the interesting part here, David with that altar, gonna try to queue up onto the stairs, and he's gonna swing, get real aggressive. They isolate Kyle, who goes down. Richie now in a 1v2, and he's got to reload both of his guns. One shot. Able to get the crack. Wait. Regenning HP.
Good job by Rich.
Surprisingly, I feel like David and Brian not aggressive enough on that. I feel like they could have easily got that kill. He was literally one shot.
I hate to throw it out there, boys, but I really feel like David backed off there.
You think it was like a mercy moment?
I think he tried to give Brian the kill, if I'm being honest.
Well, still, Brian should have got that kill.
Yeah, he definitely should have got the kill. Speaking of getting kills, Kyle just trying to regroup with his teammate, and he gets picked off. Richie just hiding, hoping they don't find him. Where's Kyle?
David's even having fun right now.
Maybe. You know, winning's fun.
Yeah,
He is fun.
that's fair. Winning is fun.
Kyle and Richie do regroup. Quick stats check. David with 4 kills, 700 damage. Brian with 4 assists, 500 damage. Alter TP does come out. David and Brian swinging in. Brian going balls to the wall like he once said he would. And David stands completely still and shoots the bow to kill Richie. A little bit tough there.
Yeah, you mentioned this class that Kyle's running. And I do think that if Kyle's running the same class Richie's running, I think it's a lot closer than this. Because I just feel like the devotion, obviously, when it's not gold, you got to wait for that charge up time. David knows that. Brian knows that. They can run in and kind of wait for that. And then, like, Richie's getting these shots down. And if Richie's getting them down, I know Kyle can. So I think if he swapped classes here, it'd be really big for the message. He's swapped legends now. He's back on the Maggie.
He does swap legends, but he's still using that same class. David did find a gold Spitfire, so he's got double gold weapons. Lining up a queue, TPing into the bottom floor of Kyle's building. We'll see if Kyle knows. He does it, and Richie gets shot in the ass. Free back shots as he goes down. Kyle gets a 1-for-1 trade, and now David is reloading, but he's able to get the kill.
As I say something about his class, he comes in, and the class might have saved him there, but he's just not able to get that final kill.
Were you watching from Kyle's POV there in that fight?
Yeah.
Because it seemed like, I was watching from David's POV, it seems like they both had a moment where they were both reloading. And that was my worry for Kyle, is that running that LMG, it's going to take a little bit longer than maybe it would if he was running a Volt, for example. And I feel like that might have been the difference maker. But I don't know. I could be talking out my ass. Maybe he wasn't reloading.
I mean, he definitely got the first kill because of the Devo.
Yeah.
The second one probably stopped. The Devo stopped him from getting that kill. Nice hold by Richie.
And he combines it with the ball. Unfortunately, not able to get a ton of damage, as David able to take out Richie. And Brian able to take out Kyle. I feel like that was a good use of both of their ults. Use that the Sparrow ult to try and force him out of that low ground spot. When you do, you get that big stun with the ball, but they weren't able to capitalize on it.
Contact on my marker.
Got to feel for Richie there, because it's like you got to think he's wondering, what the hell am I doing wrong here? But he did everything right with that ult. He just didn't get the shots down.
Which ultimately, I mean, it does just come from an experience thing, right? Like we talk about this a lot. Richie, not only inexperienced in terms of DMR, but just Apex as a game. You know, a lot of these guys in this league, thousands of hours, where Richie definitely not. So just not going to be as familiar with the gunny as some of these other guys will. Kyle on the height, big damage, but he gets kidnapped twice, 3 times by this Q and trying to back into the room, and Brian able to get the kill because of it, and that's a 2-0 swing from Omid to nothing. Kyle repeatedly backed into the Q 3 times. That was a weird Q too, because it kept taking him back outside. I don't know what was happening there. It looked so glitched.
Yeah, I felt like he literally just threw that Q mainly just for the scan, and it ended up just being the perfect kidnap.
Yeah, it was weird because Kyle would back into the building, but it would pop him back outside, and I'm not quite sure how that was working. It was a very weird placed Q. Kyle taking some big damage. Richie cracked. David swinging him aggressively. That's David dead. Kyle just trying to bat here, hiding behind a door. David tries to TP inside. Unfortunately, takes him to the other side of the building. As they're hunting him out, they find Kyle alone once again. Brian over swings onto the low ground. Now he's gonna have to fight Richie 1v1. Gets a crack onto him, and David gonna clean it up with another 2-0 sweep. Donnie might have predicted this earlier, saying that altar is such a game changer. This could be even worse than last game. And as of right now, 15-3. These boys over at the Balls are not on pace to even reach that 6-kill mark that they had on Skulltown.
I mean, a lot of it is honestly just how good David is with the altar. Like, I don't really think it's necessarily anything that Kyle and Richie are doing, like, wrong. I just think his altar play is just absolutely fucking insane compared to the rest of us. I kind of just got to give him a ton of credit. And honestly, a lot of credit to Brian, too, because he's swung a lot of opposite angles that David's been on, and he's picked up the kills. So definitely credit to him so far, too.
Yeah, as we get a little break in the action, once again a score check. David with 11 kills, 2,200 damage. Brian with 4 and 1,300. And when you see that number from Brian, nearly matching Kyle in terms of damage and outpacing him in terms of kills. Meanwhile, Richie only with 1 and 400. You can clearly tell why it's a 15-3 scoreline.
We should head this way.
Yeah, I'm a little confused because I do would have expected Kyle to have a little bit more damage here. I know it hasn't been easy for him, but I would have expected a little bit more here, because he's a really good player, and obviously he was in the finals last season. You know,
I mean, but you've been on the other end of this. Like, do you feel like when you're kind of with a newer player that maybe sometimes you just get a little bit shook? Like, do you think that maybe that's what's happening here?
Yeah, I mean, that could definitely be it, right? Like, Brian gets another kill onto Richie right there. That's 4 kills away. I do think, though, that, like, even the worst game we ever had was the 20-3. And that was off of, like, us having a win and then just completely just separating ourselves so far away from each other. We were just getting dominated. And it's like, you have one of those games, it's like, okay, but knowing how Kyle is and, like, what kind of player he is, I've seen him do a lot of things on his own. Not just in DMR, but, like, throughout just Apex in general. He's a really good player. So I wonder if he's just a little shook right now and just trying to figure out where to go next with it. But, you know, I also haven't played David yet, so.
We saw the bangle coming out from Brian, which was pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. It forced David to sit back on the stairs. Kyle gets the big stun onto David. It's a 1v1 with both players cracked. David is able to get the kill, plays his cover effectively, and Richie is not able to get the repick. Meaning that we might be seeing a 20-4 game here, depending on what happens in this next kill. So I was about to say earlier that that 20-3 might get replicated, but unfortunately for Wyatt and Troy, that record will not be tied. They will still live in infamy as the worst single game in DMR history.
Listen, after that game, everything changed. It was a turning point for the squad.
And, you know, you can only hope that for the Balls here that can be the same case for them here, because this is a rough couple of games here, I'm not going to lie. Big damage from Kyle, but Richie gets traded out, and that is 20-4, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, 12-8 split for David and Brian. Very similar damage between the two, but on the other side, only 3 kills for Kyle, 2,000 damage. Not efficient with that damage. Okay, so yeah, chat, nobody going up to the top. Do you have an electro voice? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, while he's doing that, we've got the Seer and Alter on the one side. We've got the Octane and Maggie on the other. We should be getting right into these fights pretty quickly here.
What are the teams this season? Sorry, not to cut you off, Donnie. We've got David, a newcomer, that's its husband, playing with Brian. On the other side, we've got Kyle and Richie, also a rookie. And then the next matchup will be Donnie and Nate versus Wyatt and another rookie in Jimena.
Move here.
That's a brand of microphone. Oh, okay. No, this is a Rode Procaster. As we see Kyle on the balls, taking the fight early. Kyle once again playing with devotion. Richie, I feel like, I mean, Wyatt comes in and says, great job, because right there, that's the first time I've seen Kyle get huge damage, and Richie is there to capitalize for the kill. If you can see that chemistry between them start to build, that thing that we're talking about positive momentum, they could maybe find it this game.
As we see that, though, Richie is left by himself. He's trying to back up in it right now.
Kyle, though, tried to recognize what was happening. He was there a little bit late. He backed off to try and bat. But ultimately, listen, I mean, they did lose that overall engagement, 1-2. But I still think there was some positive signs there. So if they can continue that into this game, that could be huge.
Stuck out here in this, but yeah, I mean, what you mentioned with the pushing up right there was gigantic.
Speaking of swinging, David with that RE45 is able to get the kill on a Kyle, though. He is one shot. Brian with that Seer spots out Richie and is able to get the kill. Reminder, chat, the RE45, by the way, did get nerfed. 3 less bullets in that mag. The recoil nerf doesn't seem to be that big, but we did see that David there did have to reload a little bit earlier than maybe normal. Could have potentially done some more damage mid-fight on the previous iteration. The ball's kind of stuck out behind this pole.
What is Kyle trying to say? He's trying to get some...
Oh, no. The timing on that was incredible.
So bad on that. He's going to throw the ball, though.
But Brian does get the scan. Big nade comes out onto Kyle. Brian gonna swing, but Kyle able to eliminate Brian, and now David in a 1v2.
See, that's the Kyle I'm talking about. That's the guy that I'm used to seeing.
Kyle able to get the bat off, and it wins him the fight. Kyle is woken up in this game.
Now, I did get a text message, which is why I backed out. I got a text message from a player on one of the teams that said, help. So I walked in there, and they were talking about their expectations. They like we said, Jay, they have an expectation here. They're not trying to just go for a W, but they are trying to see if they can do a little bit better on their kill total.
Well, I mean, listen, they're already at 3, which last game they had 3 when there was like 16 kills on the other side. So I think this is already early progress. They looked a lot better. Brian on the outside. Gonna be pumping out some damage. Does get cracked himself. David trying to get some kidnaps, not able to do so. David gonna swing out in the open. Good damage from Kyle, able to get the crack, but Richie and Kyle themselves are both cracked as well. Both gonna back off smartly. Try and pop the bats, but the Cyril on the other side gonna notify them of their positions. David gonna swing in, able to find Kyle all alone in the back corner. Okay, David is definitely trying to feed Brian kills. Come on.
Yep.
Listen, as a member of the media, I just want everyone out there watching this to know that when Brian tries to start talking shit at future points about his stats, remember what we just saw. David literally did not shoot his gun in order to let Brian get that kill. And Donnie called it out earlier. I didn't even see it the last time, but it made a lot of sense how they didn't get that kill. He's trying to beat it. David versus Kyle in a 1v2.
Oh, yeah, Brian's so low.
I thought that David was trying to get him there again. He literally did a wall jump and just stopped moving, didn't shoot his gun. I thought he was trying to let Brian get him another one.
I want to see Kyle and Rich slow this game down.
So we got feed gate in the chat.
Now-
Pretty appropriate.
Now, why? I mean, obviously for your team last season that was in this kind of spot, it felt like when you guys transitioned to some more defensive characters, as we see the altar port coming out real quick onto Kyle. Richie 1v1ing Brian on the other side of the map, not able to win it. David is just playing with his food right now. But Kyle able to get the kill. He is one shot though. Richie spawns next to him. If Kyle can just stay alive, wait for that health regen. This could be big. Richie with some good covering fire. Now Brian's in a 1v2. And he's going to get taken out. Love what I'm seeing out of the balls right now. That said, the thing I was bringing up, do you feel like when you guys swapped to the defensive characters, that was big for you? Because that's the one thing I'm noticing for the balls. They have no defensive characters whatsoever. No Watson, no Catalyst, no Caustic. And I feel like for their kind of team synergy, when I see them playing back like this, I can only imagine what they could do if they had a Caustic to help them play this way. But they don't have a character that can really prevent the team from pushing them.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Kyle looks like he's going to have an opportunity here to get another kill.
As Richie able to take down Brian, we've got Richie versus David in a 1v1, and David's able to win it.
Honestly, Richie killed Brian. That's all I needed. So
Yeah.
that's pretty satisfying in itself.
Yeah, the tough part is it's going to be so hard to trade for those legends, right? Like, it's going to be so difficult to get a hold of one of those legends.
Very true. Yeah, especially with those Watson and Caustic buffs. I mean, there's probably no way those two characters get traded.
To go back to your point, though, I think what Troy told me was when I got those legends and we started using them, it slowed the game down for him and it made it easier for where he could just shoot. And I think that's where Richie needs to be right now.
David with an interesting strategy here, just chucking his altar ult to try and cover some space. That said, he leaves Brian alone, and Richie is able to win the 1v1 again. Brian versus Richie is becoming a common occurrence in this game. Kyle gonna throw his ball, able to get a good hit onto David. That said, Richie was having to back up in order to heal. Maybe not the best timing in terms of throwing the balls. Richie gonna zip up to the height, which I do believe, Donnie, you said is banned, so he's gonna drop back down pretty quickly here. David versus Kyle in a 1v1. Kyle one bullet away from winning that, but he's not able to as we get another 2-0 sweep, Omit to nothing's way.
I've never wanted to see double digits so bad. I mean, in my life.
The way they're playing right now, I think 8 is absolutely going to happen. I think 9 or 10 is very attainable, though. We see a charge rifle brought out from David. The scummy tactics, if you will, but he gets cracked. Richie able to get some good shots onto him. Just in terms of a raw damage number, I do want to point out, I don't think Richie crossed 1,000 damage either the first two games. If he did, it was barely. He's at 1,200 right now, so he's having his best game so far. I don't love that play from Kyle. He tried to get the stick onto David, but allowed David to just get some free shots onto him. Yeah, Richie gonna smartly back off to Kyle, who does spawn on the opposite side of the map.
Richie's been using this Nemesis, I believe, and I think it's starting to play for him a little bit.
Yeah, the only problem is at this range, that charge rifle is gonna be deadly. They gotta cross this gap somehow. Or we just wait for David and Brian to cross it. They're advancing forward. Okay, David is literally just trying to no-scope charge rifle from point blank. As Brian able to eliminate Kyle. Both Brian and David cracked. Can they get this kill onto Richie? That's a big 50 damage. David just trying to stay alive with the wall climbs, and he's able to do it. He is definitely styling on them. This is
Commissioner, I'm investigating this game for match fixing. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, this is he's just having fun out there. He's just having fun. Regardless, 2 kills away for Omid to nothing. Brian is going to get cracked. Richie on the other side cracked as well. David gets him weak. Stop shooting. Is trying to feed Brian these kills. Ends up doing it himself. Gets the kill onto Richie. And we're going to see that be game 20-8. That was improvement on the ball's end. Richie with a much better performance, but it doesn't really matter. As David able to get 14, Brian able to get 6. You've got to wonder how many kills Brian would have in the series if David wasn't feeding them to him. Because in that game, he fed at least 2. And I'm sure in those other games when when Brian had 8 kills, I'm sure there was some more feeding going on. So that's 3-0 sweep, though, from omit to nothing. Gonna be unfortunate for the Balls as they are gonna start this season 0 of 6. But like we've talked about throughout the last game, at this point, with the way their season started, they got to try and see if they can make some potential trades for characters that can maybe slow the game down for them with some more defensive options. And they've also just got to have a mentality of, we just need to improve, because all they have to do is get to the end of that season and everybody's going to have a chance to try and make a run in the playoffs, including them, even if they're the 4th seed. So 3-0 for omit to nothing. Guys, final thoughts here.
David will be getting investigated and possibly facing a 1-game suspension for feeding kills. That's all I'm going to say. So that's all I got.
Hey, practice makes perfect, man.
That's we're just trying to get the reps in.
Try and get these reps in.
Yep, before next week.
By get these reps in, do you mean by David getting reps in for not finishing kills? Is that what you're saying, Brian?
No, he's trying to give me reps. There was a conversation had where we may have just benched David entirely and told me to basically try to 1v2 the entire time.
Interesting. It felt like there was some feeding going on, but we'll leave it at that. David, you get the big win here, 3-0. You had a great series. It seemed like you were just having some fun with those charge rifle no scopes. What do you think was kind of the key to this victory?
Yeah, so going into it, we wanted to play with confidence and not play kind of loose. So in the first, you could see the first game we played, we kind of got a feel for that fuse. I think that was a genius pick. Totally pushed me off Caustic. Unplayable. So shout out to Kyle for doing that, forcing us off that character who's broken. Absolutely. But yeah, the goal of this set was just to get Brian as many reps as possible, put him in uncomfortable positions that he's going to be in future matches. Not to disrespect our opponent, but actually to elevate Brian's gameplay in further matches. That's what the goal was here. I'm not trying to feed him kills. There were some kills, absolutely. Yeah, I could have took that. But what's the point when my teammate needs more reps than me? So that's the goal here. I'm trying to make Brian a better player. So when I'm forced in a situation, I know I can trust my teammate. So, but yeah, big shout out to Brian, obviously, and Kyle and Richie. It was a great match.
You're not getting away with trying to be a good guy here, David. That's despicable behavior. That's all I'm going to say. So
yeah, I mean, Brian, question for you. Your entire career, I feel like, has been scandal after scandal. There's been many impeach campaigns going on surrounding your name. I mean, there's people calling for it in the chat even now. Do you have any response to this feed gate, as the media is calling it?
I mean, some people will say that, and it could, a lot of those kills gone to David. Yeah, I believe a lot of them could. David, I think, is the best player in this league right now, and I think he could 1v1 with anybody here. But one of those things, he wanted to get me the reps. That was talked about in it. It's like, hey, before we went into this, he goes, I need to make sure that you can kill people when you're in a 1v1. He goes, whenever you see Richie, if you see Richie by himself, he goes, just kill him. Like, go, I want you to take that as a 1v1. He goes, I'll make sure that Kyle's in check. You take care of Richie. And when you get the chance, try to get Kyle too, even if he's half, like, try to do that. And he wanted me to have those reps for it to know that there was going to be enough follow-up on what he wants. That's something that was a big thing after playing with Matt last season, was there was a lot of talks. There was not enough follow-up on Matt. And that's something that we came into this wanting to work on, wanting to fix, and that was talked about before we go into next week. So,
and David, final question here. Looking ahead to next week, you've got a big matchup. Obviously, there's some extra storylines in terms of the opponent that you will be facing. Do you have any potential words for your future opponent?
Yeah, I think that the team we're facing is incredibly scary. I have to wake up next to one of them every morning and go to sleep possibly next to them every morning. So, you know what? I'm not going to hold back. beating my wife is
I
not
could
something
always
I do,
move
but
beds
to next
if
week.
you want.
Next week it's happening.
Mm.
New Thanks, Wyatt. I appreciate that.
Remember those words, chat. He said he is not a wife beater, so we'll see what
Not a
happens
wife beater,
next
but next
week.
we might have to adjust some plays.
We'll
I'm
see
excited,
what
to say the
happens.
least.
David, hey David, did you get that money for that couch we sent you?
Yeah, I thank you, Brian. I really
Oh, you got-
appreciate it.
Yeah.